Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Today's video is a response to Man, a short video by animator Steve Cutts, about man's relationship to the natural world. Now, this video is almost 9 years old, and that's practically a different geological epoch in internet time. 9 years ago, was that the Coney scene? So why respond to it now? Well, even if man is from another era, it's proven to be a resilient specimen. It has over 50 million views, and people still add to its long comment section to this day. It obviously hit a nerve. This is both worrying and convenient. Worrying because I think man represents a very toxic view of human nature. Convenient because this view is very common, so man provides a good example and jumping off point. On the off chance that Steve himself comes across this, sorry about the clickbaity title and thumbnail, the attention economy, you know. I have some harsh criticisms, but I want to be nice about it because I believe Steve's heart is in the right place. He obviously cares deeply about the destruction of nature and wildlife, and he wants other people to care just as much as he does. And so he doesn't shy away from trying to unsettle, disturb, and even shock his viewers in order to achieve that, which I can respect. Judging from the comments and response videos, man does unsettle, disturb, and shock. But beyond that, I don't think man is very helpful. It doesn't provide any good solutions or even proper understanding of the problem at hand. It's pessimistic, nihilistic, and just plain wrong. And I honestly wish it wasn't this popular. On the upside, by responding to this video, I might leech off of its popularity like a parasite. Wait, isn't that the view of human nature I'm trying to argue against?
Hypocrisy exposed.
Man is only 3.5 minutes long, so I encourage you to check it out before watching the rest of this video. I'll wait. In case you didn't bother, here's a brief summary. The video tells the story of humankind as one of ceaseless, careless, cruel, and even gleeful destruction of animals and nature, culminating in man becoming king of the garbage heap. So what's the problem here? Isn't that just the brutal truth? I'm not disputing the historical and currently accelerating destruction and exploitation of wildlife and nature, nor that this stems from human activity. What I am disputing is the insinuation that humanity as such is to blame, that ecological destruction is somehow baked into human nature. Frankly, I find this insulting because I'm a human and I've never destroyed any ecosystem that didn't deserve it. Fuck this anthill. Man presents an argument from human nature, and any such argument begs the question, what is human nature? It's one of the most contested questions in all of philosophy. Are we selfish or altruistic? Competitive or cooperative? Greedy or generous? Evil or good? Are some people natural slaves while others are free to do philosophy? Wait, what? Go home, Aristotle, you're drunk. And the most relevant question for us today, are humans a cancer on the earth, unavoidably consuming more and more until we leave nothing but wasteland? Or are we capable of living harmoniously with nature? The video takes a clear stand. It says that throughout our existence, humans have done nothing but destroy and defile nature. That's all that man's relationship to the natural world has consisted of. It's in our nature to destroy nature. This sentiment is common among environmentalists and non-environmentalists alike. Just look at last year's Planet of the Humans.
We must at long last accept that it's not the carbon dioxide molecule destroying the planet. It's us. It's not one thing, but everything we humans are doing.
Or just look at the comment section of any of the uploads of the Humans Are a Virus scene from The Matrix. On the surface, it's a compelling argument. I mean, just look at all the deforestation and pollution and extermination around. Who did that, huh? It sure wasn't the pangolins. It's called anthropogenic, i.e. human-caused climate change and global warming after all. Haven't we caused it? Aren't we responsible? Human activity has caused it, sure. And I do think we have a responsibility to deal with the eco-crisis. I mean, that's the major human project of the 21st century. But that's not the question at hand. The question is the ecological destruction driven by human nature? Again, what is human nature? I believe that we're fundamentally good, thanks in large part to this book. Like seriously, this book is dope. But historical and societal context makes us act otherwise. To steal a metaphor from Pop Culture Detective that was in turn stolen from Alan Johnson, if you play a game of Monopoly and you follow the rules and you play to win, you will act a certain way. It doesn't matter if you're the Dalai Lama or Donald Trump, you will act like a ruthless capitalist, because those are the rules of that game. The world is like that too. If you want to be successful, or rich, which is typically equated with success, you have to sell something, a lot of that something, which entails resource extraction, energy expenditure, and exploitation of labor. And you have to sell that something to whoever can afford it. And if you have nothing to sell, you sell your own body, your own labor power, to make the stuff that other people sell to make themselves rich. Thus we get to a situation where 100 companies are responsible for 70% of all carbon emissions. Hardly the fault of some undifferentiated mass of humans. Now, a standard response to that stat is that they produce the stuff that we humans consume. It's still our fault. Well, looking at consumption, the 10% richest people in the world are responsible for 50% of all carbon emissions. The top 1% alone emit 15% of all carbon emissions, which is twice as much as the poorest half of the world. This is the biggest problem with man. It's completely devoid of class distinctions. All of humanity is represented by one guy stomping around and wrecking everything, as if environmental destruction was the fault of everyone, which is simply wrong. Except in my case. We have caused climate change and global warming. No! Who is this we exactly? I actually don't like saying human-caused or man-made climate change and global warming because that's not specific enough. I think that framing creates misplaced guilt and lackluster individualistic solutions. Oh no, I consumed something today. I'm part of the problem. From now on, I'll buy organic.
Dear future generations, sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Not even for the anthill. Bottom line, there's an astounding difference between people when it comes to environmental footprints. The eco-crisis is not the fault of humans. It's the fault of an economic system that by necessity drives a very small segment of the human population to overproduce and overconsume at the expense of everybody else, including wildlife, nature, and future generations. Now, you could argue that man isn't about humanity as such. It's called man and not human, after all. Maybe it specifically attacks the abstract ideal human, the anthropos, the man of the, for instance, Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They didn't have women and people of color in mind, for reasons. And the guy in the video is definitely a dude, and unmistakably white. So perhaps man is specifically about the white man's relationship to the natural world. In which case it would actually be onto something. Alright, here I go being a traitor to my race and gender. The current paradigmatic view of nature is an anthropocentric one, i.e. nature only matters to the extent that it matters to humans. Nature has no value in and of itself, just instrumental value as resources that can be commodified for human benefits. Humans are regarded as separate from and superior to nature. Humans are conscious, nature is not. Humans have agency, nature is passive. Humans are alive, nature is just matter, basically dead. And if something's dead, we have no moral obligation towards it. On the contrary, we have a right to exploit nature as much as we please. This kind of thinking stems from white male European thinkers such as Francis Bacon and René Descartes a few centuries ago. These thinkers were invariably Christian, which allows us to trace this ideology even farther back, a few thousand years. In the book of Genesis, you find these very famous verses, here slightly condensed. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, and let them have dominion over all the earth. Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. And have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." So, is this the relationship between man and the natural world that the video is targeting? There is a problem with this reading. Remember the little text at the beginning of the video? It doesn't say 500 years ago, it doesn't say 5,000 years ago, it says 500,000 years ago. Which is astounding because anatomically modern humans didn't exist until 200,000 years ago. The video might refer to this. The video is making the claim that man's relationship to the natural world has been a destructive one for as long as humans have existed, and even longer. Is the video saying that our destructive tendency is not even human nature, it's beyond human nature? Well, if it's that deeply ingrained in us, then what hope is there? Also, is the video saying we ate fried chicken during the Pleistocene? This thesis is highly dubious. The anthropocentric worldview is not how most people have rolled throughout our existence. Prehistoric people were animists, meaning they believed the whole world is alive, that animals, rivers, forests, mountains, everything are imbued with spirits. Not only is everything alive, but everything is connected. Humans had kinship with the natural world. They didn't consider themselves separate from it, nor superior. On the contrary, rather than considering themselves on top of a natural hierarchy as the pinnacle of evolution, they considered themselves in a humbling position of being the youngest members of creation, and thus the ones with the most to learn from older members such as plants and trees. They saw themselves as engaged in a reciprocal relationship with a generous and giving parent, that is, Mother Earth or Mother Nature. This fostered a sense of moral duty to care for the land, to not take more than necessary, and to give back. This meant sustainable and respectful land management and hunting practices, because they understood that what is good for the land and for wildlife is also good for people. It entailed keeping the well-being of future people in mind, urging us to think 7 generations ahead. I'm talking in the past tense as if this worldview is dead, but truth is, despite the advent of agriculture and civilization, and despite a brutal history of oppression and genocide, this way of seeing the world is alive and well among indigenous people today. This kind of relationship between humans and the natural world has been the most common one, the kind we've had for like 95% of our existence. It has a much stronger claim to being part of human nature than the anthropocentric view. What Steve Cutts has done is take an anomaly, a view of nature that has prevailed for 500 or maybe 5,000 years, and say, this is how it's always been. And in the process, he basically says that humans are irredeemably awful, that humans are a virus. And honestly, I think that's a big fuck you to indigenous people. They make up less than 5% of the world's population, yet they protect more than 80% of the world's biodiversity. Humans and nature can mix. Humans are nature. Sure, some people have an abusive relationship with the natural world, but others have a loving relationship with Mother Earth. Wait, Mother Earth? Freud, stop looking at me like that. The question of human nature has political consequences. A common defense of capitalism is that, love it or hate it, it's the system that best conforms to human nature. Greedy, selfish, and competitive. Socialists, meanwhile, also argue from human nature, arguing that capitalism makes us act against it, against our tendency towards compassion, altruism, and cooperation. Anyway, what if, for the sake of argument, man is correct? If humans are irredeemably ecologically destructive, what can be done about it? About us. As far as I can tell, our choices are authoritarianism, because if the problem is human nature, then we need a strong leader to keep it in check, or population control. Because if the problem is humans, doesn't it follow that the fewer of us there are, the better, and no humans would be best of all? You actually hear that one a lot, that it would be best if all humans just disappeared. Which reminds me of the end of the video, which I think drives home my point that man attacks human nature and not, say, civilization or capitalism. After man has become king of the garbage heap, a spaceship lands next to him. 2 aliens come out, look around in disappointment, and then beat the shit out of the man. This moment serves an obvious narrative function. The villain of the video is the man, and by extension us. The aliens beating him up gives the villain his well-deserved comeuppance. Oh shit, fuck, they're everywhere. Oh god, oh god damn it.
I'm sorry, I stomped on your home.
But this made me think, of all things, about the Fermi paradox. For those unfamiliar, the Fermi paradox poses the question, if the universe is so vast that intelligent life on other planets is virtually guaranteed to exist, then why haven't we seen or heard from them? Where are they? I don't know, they might think we're boring. We only walked on the moon like 50 years ago. But imagine, if intelligent life exists on other planets, would they also pollute? Would they also burn coal, oil, and gas? If they're carbon-based life forms, then there's nothing precluding that. Would they also create global warming? I mean, any civilization on any planet would have some environmental impacts, right? What do you think the spaceship is made of? The power of high-level ideas? Perhaps the aliens haven't visited us yet because they've ruined the ecologies of their home planets before getting the chance to develop interstellar space travel. Personally, I'm not so pessimistic as to think that ecological ruin is an inevitable outcome of civilization. I'm not trying to argue that. I just think it's interesting that man brings aliens into the mix. This only adds to my conviction that man is condemning specifically human nature. The video seems to say, if aliens were watching us, they'd think we were so stupid, inviting the viewer to see humans the same way. But who are the aliens to judge? I mean, what about their relationship to the natural world? They left their natural world, and they're supposed to be the ecological heroes? Hey, here's a radical idea. Humans are good, actually. We're not inevitable ecological wrecking balls. Not all humans destroy the earth in equal measure, and not all humans see the world as nothing but resources to exploit. And it's not just indigenous people doing good for the natural world. Permaculture farmers and nature restorationists do amazing work. If you want to restore your faith in the future and in humanity, I recommend you watch some videos on that. In fact, I've made a playlist. It's so inspiring watching barren, decayed landscapes turn lush and green. There's great potential here to undo some of the damage our system has done, to sequester carbon, restore wilderness, increase biodiversity, while also making communities more food and water secure and better adapted to future climate change. And this can come about through human effort. Humans can make not just a low impact, but a positive impact on the environment. And it can be done in a short amount of time too. Hey, crazy idea. What if instead of military service, everybody did this for a couple of years? But regular people too are better than their reputation. A Harvard-Yale study that tasked people with managing resources found that most people want to preserve resources for future generations, going against the typical image of humans as self-interested and greedy. And polls show that people are willing to cut consumption. They think preserving the environment is more important than economic growth, and they're positive to degrowth. At least in France, Italy, Germany, and Spain. Many are voluntarily cutting down on meat and air travel, buying stuff secondhand, and not buying stuff at all unless they really need it. I think there's a significant cultural shift in the making here. Will that be enough? No, we need systemic change too. But cultural shifts and individual action matter in bringing that system change about. Also, during the making of this video, the news dropped that the Keystone XL pipeline is dead. It's cancelled. Activism works. And who did that? Humans, that's who. Which just goes to show that humans can turn the tide on environmental destruction if we organize. Speaking of the system, at the end of one of the nature restoration videos in the playlist, John D. Lieu drops this truth bomb about how the global economy works.
The source of wealth is the functional ecosystems. And yet, in our economy now, as it stands, the products and services have monetary values. But the source, the functional ecosystems, are zero. So this cannot be true. It's false. So we've created a global economic institutions and economic theory based on a flaw in logic.
This fits well with what I've read in this book, The Ecological Rift by Foster Clark in York. The idea that nature was a free gift for exploitation was explicitly advanced by Adam Smith, Thomas Malthus, David Ricardo, and John Stuart Mill. Indeed, so crucial is this notion to neoclassical economics that it continues to live on in mainstream environmental economics. If the game of Monopoly treats nature as worthless, then don't be surprised if the players do likewise. Humanity only acts like a virus because the rules of the game force us to, which is why we need to change those rules. Man, however, doesn't acknowledge that there is a game, or that there are any rules. It's all about the humans, as if we all agreed to commit ecocide. Like, beyond inspiring some people into becoming vegetarians or vegans, man is useless at best and dangerous at worst in inspiring change. I'm not saying that lightly, because some of the comments under man disturb me. COVID is good because it kills people. Humans deserve to die. All hail Thanos. Some even say that they've been shown this video in school. Multiple times even. And goddammit, the teachers should know better. My great worry is that if this kind of misanthropy that man, along with Planet of the Humans, represents becomes the face of environmentalism, then we're fucked. Because you're not going to inspire the mass political movement necessary to deal with the eco-crisis if your message is, humans sure are garbage, right? Want to help me save the world? Nah, I'll help some other people save the world instead, thanks. People who don't blame humans for the problems of capitalism. People who don't stomp on bugs for fun. What? I learned my lesson, okay? That's the end of the video proper, so if you've had your fill and feel like doing something else, feel free to do so. But please leave a like and a comment, it really helps out in the algorithm and for my self-esteem. I do have some additional points about Steve Cutt's other work though, some positive, some negative. Man is his most watched video, but far from his best. The Turning Point and Wake Up Call are both really good. Rather than just going humans bad, they point to the actual problems behind the eco-crisis, like class relations, big business, consumerism, advertising, apathy, and police crackdown on resistance. They're both huge improvements over Man and highly recommended. Happiness, though. It's set in a human-like society populated by rats. Now, I'll be generous and assume it's a play on the expression rat race. Still, comparing humans to rats does not sit well with me. Especially not when some of the shots seem to be designed to induce disgust. I mean, look at this swarm of rats. And may I ask what we are metaphorically supposed to feel disgust for? Then there's Man 2020, the sequel to Man. And we're back to humans bad, because look at the animals thriving while humans are in quarantine. Okay, so the notion that COVID-19 was good for nature is a bit overstated. Dolphins didn't visit Venice, and the fish in the canals were always there. CO2 emissions only dropped by a measly 7%. Funding for conservation efforts plummeted, leaving conditions ripe for poaching. All that corona waste is killing animals. And of course, animals can catch the virus too. It came from bats in the first place, remember? It might be a lot to ask for a 2-3 minute long cartoon to have a lot of complexity, but Man 2020 still strikes me as a missed opportunity, because the pandemic is a genuine symptom of a broken system that creates a toxic relationship between humans and nature. The commodification of animals unleashed something devastating. There's much to be said about that. Much that skilled animators could say. Not me though, like this is the best animation I can do. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video and found it persuasive, I would appreciate it if you shared it around, because I feel quite strongly about this. I hear this kind of rhetoric all the time and I think it's really damaging. we'll get nowhere by saying I hate humans. If you're new to this channel and got this far, why don't you check out some of my other videos, like the one I made about degrowth. Also, big thank you to all the new subscribers. Oh no, the eyeball zone, there's no escape, But seriously, thank you all so much. Last time I uploaded a video I had just over 40 subscribers, so yeah. I hope you enjoyed this video and will enjoy future videos. I recently started a Twitter and Instagram, so follow me there to get extra alerts for whenever I release a new video. I've heard YouTube sometimes does a bad job with that. Other than that, I hope you all will have a great day, evening, night, whatever's most appropriate for when you happen to watch this. Bye!